Hello everyone, my name is Mama Bunny, and I'm so happy to see you here back at the burrow. And to all of our new friends, hello, it's so nice to meet you. How was your day? I hope it went well. And now that you're here, my day's gotten even better. Well then, tonight's story is going to be a little different. Rather than a picture book, I found a chapter book that I've wanted to read for a very long time. And I thought it would be really fun if I could read it to you. And because it's a little on the long side, I'm going to be doing it in 2 videos. Oh, but don't worry. I promise we'll finish it next time. But we can't have a story unless we're all comfy cozy. So make sure you're wearing something comfy. And don't forget to bring your favorite stuffy. I think they're gonna want to hear the story too, don't you? Well then, are we all comfy? Let's get started, shall we? Tonight's story is The Moomins and the Great Flood. It must have been late in the afternoon one day at the end of August when Moomin Troll and his mother arrived at the deepest part of the great forest. It was completely quiet and so dim between the trees that it was as though twilight had already fallen. Here and there, giant flowers grew, glowing with a peculiar light like flickering lamps. And furthest in, among the shadows, moved tiny dots of cold green. Glowworms, said Moomin Momma, but they had no time to stop and take a closer look at them. They were out searching for a snug, warm place where they could build a house to crawl into when winter came. Moomins cannot stand the cold at all, so the house would have to be ready by October at the latest. So they walked on, further and further into the silence and the darkness. Little by little, Moomin Troll began to feel anxious, and he asked his mother in a whisper if she thought there were any dangerous creatures in there. "I shouldn't think so," she said, "though perhaps we'd better go a little faster anyways. But I hope we're so small that we won't be noticed if something dangerous should come along." Suddenly, Moomin Troll gripped his mother tightly by the arm. "Look," he said, so frightened that his tail stuck straight out. From the shadows, behind a tree trunk, 2 eyes were staring at them. At first, Moomin Momma was frightened too. But then she said soothingly, "It's really a very little creature. Wait, and I'll shine a light on it. Everything looks worse in the dark, you know." And so she picked one of the big glowing flowers and lit up the shadows with it. And then she saw that there really was a very little creature sitting there, and that it looked friendly and a little scared. "There you see," said Moomin Momma.
"What sort of thing are you?"
asked the little creature. "I'm a Moomin Troll," answered Moomin Troll, who had time to feel brave again. "And this is my mother. I hope we didn't disturb you." "You You can see that his mother had taught him to be polite,
Not at all.
said the little creature.
I was sitting here feeling rather sad and longing for company. Are you in a big hurry?
Yes, said Moomin Mamma. You see, we're looking for a nice, sunny place where we can build a house. But perhaps you'd like to come with us,
And how?
said the little creature, leaping out towards them.
I'd got lost and thought I'd never see the sun again.
So all three continued, taking a large tulip with them to light the way. But around them, the darkness thickened all the time. The flower glowed more faintly beneath the trees, and finally the very last one went out. In front of them gleamed a black stretch of water, and the air was heavy and cold,
Oh, how horrid.
said the little creature.
That's the swamp. I don't dare go there.
Why not? Asked Moomin Mamma,
Because that's where the great serpent lives.
said the little creature in a very low voice, looking about him in all directions. Pooh, said Moomin Troll, wanting to show how brave he was. We are so small that we wouldn't be noticed. How will we ever find the sunshine if we don't dare cross it? Just come along with us,
Perhaps a bit of the way.
said the little creature.
But be careful. On your own heads be it.
So they took long strides as quietly as they could, from tussock to tussock. The black mud bubbled and whispered all around them. But as long as the tulip lamp burned, they felt calm. At one point, Moomin Troll slipped and nearly fell in, but his mother caught hold of him at the last moment. We shall have to go on by boat, she said. Now your feet are soaked. You're sure to catch cold. And then she got out a pair of dry socks for him from her handbag and lifted him and the little creature up onto a big, round water lily leaf. They all three stuck their tails in the water as paddles, and then they steered straight out into the swamp. Beneath them, they glimpsed dark creatures that swam in and out between the roots of the trees. And there were splashing and diving sounds, and the mist came stealing over them. Suddenly, the little creature said,
I want to go home now.
Don't be scared, little creature, said Moomin Troll in a quivering voice. We'll sing something cheerful and... At that very moment, their tulip went out, and it was completely dark. And out of the darkness, they heard a hissing and felt the water leaf bobbing up and down. Quick, quick, cried Moomin Mamma, the great serpent is coming. They stuck their tails in deeper and paddled with all their might so that the water gushed around the bows. Now they could see the serpent swimming up behind them. It looked wicked, and its eyes were cruel and yellow. They paddled as hard as they could, but it kept gaining on them, and was already opening its mouth with its long, flickering tongue. Moomin Troll put his hands in front of his eyes and cried, Mama, Mama! And then he waited to be eaten up, but nothing happened. And then he looked cautiously between his fingers. Something very remarkable had happened. The tulip was glowing again. It had opened all of its petals, and in their midst stood a girl with bright blue hair reaching right down to her feet. Brighter and brighter glowed the tulip. The serpent began to blink, and suddenly it turned right around with an angry hiss and slid down into the mud. Moomin Troll, his mother, and the little creature were so agitated and surprised that for a long time they couldn't say a word. At last, Moomin Mamma said solemnly, "Thank you so very much for your help, lovely lady." And Moomin Troll bowed more deeply than he had ever done before, for the blue-haired girl was the most beautiful thing he had seen in all his life.
Were you inside the tulip the entire time?
Asked the little creature shyly. "It's my house," she said. "You may call me Tulipa." And so they paddled slowly over to the other side of the swamp. Here the ferns were thick, and beneath them Moomin Mamma made a nest in the moss for them to sleep in. Moomin Troll lay close beside his mother, listening to the song of the frogs out in the swamp. The night was full of strange, desolate sounds, and it was a long time before he fell asleep. The next morning, Tulipa led the way in front of them, and her blue hair shone like the brightest daylight lamp. The path climbed steeper and steeper, and at last the mountain rose straight up, so high that they could not see where it ended.
I expect there's sunshine up there.
The little creature said longingly.
I'm so dreadfully cold.
"Me too," said Moomin Troll. And then he sneezed. "What did I tell you?" said his mother. "Now you've got a cold. Please sit here while I make a fire." And then she gathered together an enormous heap of dry branches and lit it with a spark from Tulipa's blue hair. They sat, all four of them, looking into the fire while Moomin Mamma told them stories. She told them about what it was like when she was young, when Moomin Trolls did not need to travel through fearsome forests and swamps in order to find a place to live. In those days, they lived together with the house trolls in people's houses, mostly behind their tall stoves. "Some of us still live there now, I'm sure," said Moomin Mamma. "But only where people still have stoves, I mean. We're not happy with central heating." "Did the people know we were there?" asked Moomin Troll. "Some did," said his mother, "and they felt us mostly as a cold drought on the back of their necks sometimes when they were alone." "Tell us something about Moomin Papa," asked Moomin Troll. He was an unusual Moomin Troll, said his mother thoughtfully and sadly. He was always wanting to move from one stove to the next. He was never happy where he was. And then he disappeared, took off with the Hattie Fatteners and the Little Wanderers.
What sort of folk are they?
Asked the little creature. "A kind of little troll creature," explained Woman Mamma. "They're mostly invisible. Sometimes they can be found under people's floors, and you can hear them pattering about in there when it's quiet in the evenings. But mostly they wander around the world, don't stay anywhere, and don't care about anything. You can never tell if a Hattie Fattener is happy or angry, sad or surprised. I'm sure that they have no feelings at all. And has Moomin Papa become a Hattie Fattener now? Asked Moomin Troll. No, of course not, said his mother. Surely you'll realize that they simply tricked him into going along with them. Imagine if we were to meet him one day, said Tulipa. He'd be pleased, wouldn't he? Of course, said Moomin Mamma, but I don't expect we shall. And then she cried. It sounded so sad that they all began to sob. And as they cried, they began to think about a lot of other things that were sad, too. And that made them cry more and more. Tulipa's hair turned pale with sorrow and lost all its shine. When they had gone on like this for a good while, a stern voice suddenly rang out, saying, "What are you howling for down there?" They stopped at once and looked around them in all directions, but could not discover who was talking to them. At the same time, a rope ladder came dangling down the rock face. High up, an old gentleman stuck his head out through a door in the mountain. "Well?" he shouted. "Excuse me," said Talupa, curtsying. "But you see, sir, it's really all very sad. Mom and Papa has disappeared, and we're freezing and can't get over this mountain to find the sunshine, and we haven't anywhere to live." "I see," said the old gentleman. "You'd better come up to my place then. My sunshine is the finest you could imagine." It was quite hard to climb up the rope ladder, especially for Moomin Troll and his mother, as they had such short legs. "Now, you must wipe your feet," said the old gentleman, and drew the ladder up after them. Then he closed the door very carefully, so that nothing harmful could sneak inside. They all went up an escalator that carried them right inside the mountain.
Are you sure this gentleman is to be trusted?
Whispered the little creature.
Remember, on your own heads be it.
And then he made himself as small as he could and hid behind Moomin Mamma. Then a bright light shone towards them, and the escalator took them straight up into a wonderful landscape. The trees sparkled with colors and were full of fruits and flowers they had never seen before. And below them in the grass lay gleaming white snowflakes. "Hurrah!" cried Moomin Troll, and ran out to make a snowball. "Be careful, it's cold," called his mother. But when he ran his hands through the snow, he noticed that it was not snow at all, but ice cream. And the green grass that gave way under his feet was made of fine spun sugar. Crisscross over the meadow ran brooks of every color, foaming and bubbling over the golden sand.
Green lemonade,
cried the little creature who had stooped down to drink.
It's not water at all, it's lemonade.
Moomin Mamma went straight over to a brook that was completely white, since she had always been very fond of milk. Most Moomin Trolls are, at least when they get a bit older. Tulipa ran from tree to tree, picking armfuls of chocolates and sweets, and as soon as she had plucked one of the shining fruits, another grew at once. They forgot their sorrows and ran further and further into the enchanted garden. The old gentleman slowly followed them and seemed very pleased by their wonder and admiration.
I made all this myself.
He said,
The sun, too.
and when they looked at the sun, they noticed that it was really not the real sun, but a big lamp with fringes of gold paper,
I see.
said the little creature with disappointment.
I thought it was the real sun. Now I can see that it has a slightly peculiar light.
Well, that was the best I could do.
Said the old gentleman, offended.
But you like the garden, don't you?
Oh, yes, said Moomin Troll, whose mouth was full of pebbles just then. They were actually made of marzipan.
If you would like to stay here, I will build you a candy house to live in.
Said the old gentleman.
I get a bit bored here sometimes all on my own.
And that would be very nice, said Moomin Mamma. But if you don't mind, we really must be on our way. We were thinking of building a house in the real sunshine, you see. No, let's stay, cried Moomin Troll, the little creature in Tulupa. Well, children, said Moomin Mamma, wait and see. And she lay down to sleep under a chocolate bush. When she woke up again, she heard a fearful groaning, and realized at once that her Moomin Troll, who had a tummy ache. Moomins get tummy aches very easily. It had become quite round from all he had eaten, and it hurt dreadfully. Beside him sat the little creature, who had gotten a toothache from all the sweets, and was moaning even worse. Moomin Mamma did not scold, but took 2 powders from her handbag, and gave them one each. And then she asked the old gentleman if he didn't have a pool of nice hot porridge.
No, I'm afraid not.
He said,
But there is one of whipped cream and another one of jam.
Said Moomin Mamma. You can see for yourself that it's proper hot food they need. Where's Talupa?
She says she can't get to sleep because the sun never goes down.
Said the old gentleman, looking unhappy.
I'm truly sorry that you don't like it here.
We'll come back again, Moomin Mamma consoled him. But now I really must see to it that we get out in the fresh air again. And so she took Moomin Troll by one hand and the little creature by the other, and called to Lipa.
You'll do best to take the switchback railway.
Said the old gentleman politely.
It goes right through the mountain and comes out in the middle of the sunshine.
Thank you, said Moomin Mamma. Goodbye then. Goodbye then, said Tulipa. Moomin Troll and little creature were not able to say anything, as they felt so horribly sick.
Don't mention it,
said the old gentleman, and then they took the switchback railway through the whole mountain at a dizzying speed. When they came out on the other side, they were quite giddy and sat on the ground for a long time recovering. Then they looked around. Before them lay the ocean, glittering in the sunshine. I want to go for a swim, cried Moomin Troll, for now he felt all right again.
Me too,
said the little creature, and so they ran right out into the sunbeam on the water. Tulipa tied her hair up so it would not go out, and then she followed them and stepped in very cautiously. Oh, it's so cold, she said. Don't stay in too long, called Moomin Mamma, and then she lay down to sunbathe, for she was still quite tired. All at once, an ant-lion came strolling across the sand. He looked very cross and said,
This is my beach. You must go away."
"We certainly shan't," said Moomin Mamma.
"See there."
Then the antlion began to kick sand in her eyes. He kicked and scratched until she could not see a thing. Closer and closer he came, and suddenly he began to dig himself into the sand, making the hole deeper and deeper around him. At last only his eyes could be seen at the bottom of the hole. And all the while he continued to throw sand at Moomin Mamma. She had begun to slide into the hole and was trying desperately to climb up again. "Help! Help!" she cried, spitting sand. "Save me!" Moomin Troll heard her and came rushing up out of the water. He managed to catch hold of her ears and pulled and struggled with all his might while he shouted rude names at the antlion. The little creature in Tulipa came and helped too. And then, at last, they managed to haul Moomin Mamma over the edge, and she was rescued. The antlion continued to dig himself in out of pure annoyance, and no one knows if he ever found the way up again. It was a long while until they got the sand out of their eyes and managed to calm down a little. But by then they had lost all their desire to swim and instead continued along the seashore in order to look for a boat. The sun was already going down, and behind the horizon, threatening black clouds were gathering. It looked as though there was going to be a storm. Suddenly, they caught sight of something moving farther along the shore. And that is where we're going to leave off. Oh, but don't worry. I promise I'll finish it next time. And we'll find out if Moomin Mama and Moomin Papa were able to reunite, and if they were able to find a new home. Oh, I hope they do. Well then, little ones, it's getting late and we should go to sleep. So, get all snuggled up underneath your blanket. Hold your favorite stuffy tight, 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 so they know they are loved. Oh, and dream some wonderful dreams. And while you're having some wonderful dreams, I'll get the rest of the story ready for next time. How does that sound? And always remember, Mama Bunny loves you very, very much. Good night.